Support Name Explain on Patreon for ad-free videos, exclusive podcasts and blog posts, and to help choose what names get explained. Click the link in the description. Have you ever noticed that the USA and Malaysia have really similar flags? Like, I feel more people should be talking about this. The internet loves videos about flags, and this one seems to be falling under the radar. Unless someone has made a video about it, I just haven't watched it yet. Though despite how similar these two flags look, from what I can gather, this similarity is little more than a coincidence. The red and white stripes of the Malaysian flag were inspired by the flag of the British East India Trading Company, with the crescent and moon being used due to being a central part of Malaysian culture. Anyway, what have the similarities between these flags got to do with the rest of this video? Well, not that much in all honesty. I just wanted to know for myself why they looked alike and dragged you all along for the ride. Though flags are the only thing that Malaysia and the USA have in common, it would seem, as both these nations are broken down into states. However, like their flag, there are some key differences between the states of the USA and the states of Malaysia. Malaysia only has 13 states, unlike the USA with a whopping 50, which yes, one day I will cover. However, Malaysia also has 3 federal territories too, though the difference I found most interesting is the fact that 9 of Malaysia's states are monarchies unto themselves. Not only are these states monarchies, but Malaysia as a whole has a monarch too. The head of all of Malaysia is decided upon in a meeting held every 5 years by the monarchs of these individual states called the Conference of Rulers. I mean, there's a little bit more to it than that, but still, that's an incredibly cool concept and sounds like something straight out of a fantasy book. Though for me, the 5 families of Scranton Business Park come to mind. These states and the federal territories of Malaysia not only have their own rulers, but their own culture, history, landscape, and of course names. You all thought I forgot about the names, didn't you? It is these names we shall be looking into today. Though of course I just need to give my usual grovel explaining that while I may explain names, saying them correctly is a different story entirely. Unsurprisingly, Malay is not my native tongue, so I might not say all of these names particularly correct. However, I do always check how to say these names, and Forvo is my source of choice on all things pronunciation. So if I say anything incorrectly, please feel free to go check how to say them for yourselves. Anyway, let's delve into the names of these states and federal territories of Malaysia. Let's start off with the northernmost state of West Malaysia, Perlis. Not only is this the northernmost state in the western half of Malaysia, but it's also the smallest state from a land area perspective. We don't seem to be entirely sure as to where this name came from, however, though there's a whole list of ideas. These ideas range from it meaning gift in a language to it being named after a now extinct type of tree. Another idea has it meaning foot falling into a crack, possibly relating to people's feet sinking into mud, though the most popular theory seems to come from the thought it comes from the phrase fraloi, which means coconut washed ashore, because many coconuts are found on the shore of this state. Going south, we have the state of Kerda. It's believed that this name may relate to the Hindustani word of kadar, which means land suitable for paddy cultivating, relating to rice paddies. This makes sense as paddy fields and rice production is of huge importance to this state. The state of Penang is not only formed from part of the Malaysian peninsula, but also a small island. This island is called Penang Island, meaning the state as a whole is named after this island, which is a part of it. Penang is also named after a kind of nut, like Perlis is thought to be too. It's thought it comes from the Malay Palu Penang, which means areca nut island, with the areca nut growing on the island. As we head east on the western half of Malaysia, we arrive at the state of Kelantan. This is another state with a handful of etymological ideas. The popular idea is that it means the land of lightning, and as cool as that name is, I'm not too sure why it would be called that. I found no evidence that this part of the nation gets more lightning than others, though let me know if that isn't the case. Other ideas claim the name comes from a type of tree that grows in this area, that it means shiny/glittering, or that it means claypool. All different ideas, that's for sure. The state of Perlak has a name that is also the name of something else in Malay, as Perlak is also the Malay word for silver. This has led to many to believe that this state is named after the metal. Supposedly this state has a large tin mine. While tin and silver are 2 different metals, clearly the similarities between the two was enough to justify it being named after it. Over on the east coast once again we have the state of Terengganu, which has some really unique etymological ideas. One idea is that it means bright rainbow, while another idea is that it came from the Malay term Talang Anu, which means fang of something, which relates to a story of a hunter finding a fang of an unknown creature somewhere in these lands. Carrying on south we have the state of Pahang. This name seems to come from mixed origins. It is ultimately believed to be named after the Pahang River which runs through the state. However, However, as to where this river's name comes from seems to be a bit more debated. It is thought that this river might be named after a tree that grew in the river once, which was called the Pokok Mahang. Over time, these words came together to become Pahang. One idea is that it comes from the Khmer word for tin, as there were tin mines in this land. The state of Selangor has a wonderful story attached to its name. The story goes that a warrior was escaping from the Portuguese in these lands, and at one point decided to rest under a tree. However, his rest was disturbed by a fly that kept on pestering him. No longer being able to rest, he decided to explore this area and then settle in the land, naming it Sat Si Langor, meaning a large blowfly. This name eventually got corrupted into what it is today. While this is just a story, it's a fun one nonetheless. I don't think I've come across anywhere else named after an annoying fly. Then we arrive at our first federal territory, Putrajaya. This federal territory is comprised mainly of the planned city of the same name, and this territory's city's name comes from Malaysia's first Prime Minister, Tunku Abdul Rahman Putra Al-Haj. The latter half of the territory's name comes from a Malay word meaning success, to inspire success in the land. Then we move on to the other federal territory in West Malaysia, that being Kuala Lumpur, which I'm sure many of you already know is also the nation's capital. Despite being the very impressive city that it is now, its name is actually from pretty mucky and dirty origins. Many theories on the name point to it relating to mud. This is because Lumpur is quite literally the Malay word for mud. The Kuala part of the name seems to be a tad more debated. The most popular theory, however, is that it means river junction / confluence, basically where two rivers meet. I can understand why a place where two rivers meet would get rather muddy. It seems that Kuala Lumpur is quite a rivery city, so this name does make sense. Though as we continue south, we get to the state of Negeri Sembilan, which seems to be the only state name to consist of two words. The latter part of this name is the Malay word for 9, and it relates to 9 small districts known as Negari, which were once part of the country. I'm sure you realise that the former part of this name relates to that term Negari I just used too. This means that the state's name roughly translates into meaning the 9 districts. And yes, these 9 districts all have names too, but maybe we can cover those another day. The state of Malacca has another fun story tied to it. The story goes that Parameswara, the last king of Singapore, was taking a break under a tree while hunting deer with his dog. When a deer appeared, however, it kicked his dog into the river. Parameswara was so impressed with the heroic action of this tiny deer that he saw it as a good omen and started a kingdom in that place. He named it Malacca in honor of the tree he was resting under, a Malacca tree. A really fun story, though it doesn't involve a dog getting kicked into a river. Someone should go check on the dog. And at the very bottom of West Malaysia, we have the state of Johor. Many see this state as the jewel of Malaysia, quite literally, as its name means exactly that, coming from the Arabic word of Jahar, meaning precious jewel. We must now travel across the sea to arrive at East Malaysia, which is the part of the nation that finds itself at home on the island of Borneo. We have covered Borneo unto itself in a video all about the island's names and history. I'm still impressed to hear that's the only island on the globe with 3 nations on it. I think we covered the Malaysian state names in that video too, but there's definitely no harm in being thorough and covering them here too. The Malaysian state of Sabah is in the northernmost tip of the island. The most popular theory on this name is that it comes from a type of banana that are grown here, that being the pisang Sabah. This sounds logical. We've come across many places named after the produce that grow there. Then we reach the last federal territory in the country, that being Labuan. Labuan is a smaller island off the coast of Borneo, and its name is thought to simply mean harbour. This makes sense too, with it being an island surrounded by water and everything. And lastly, we have the largest state of Malaysia, Sarawak. This state is believed to be named after the Sarawak River that runs through it, though how exactly this river got its name we don't seem to be too sure. The most popular idea is that it comes from a type of mineral that was mined in this area, so it's a state named after a river named after a mineral. That's certainly a rather unique way for a state to be named, but in this video we've also seen a state named after bananas, a state named in ode of a deer kicking a dog into a river, a state named after an annoying fly, and a city named after mud. It cannot be denied that Malaysia is a very unique country with some very unique names and name meanings. Just Penang was suggested by Alexander Davis, and thanks to their suggestion, they will now be honoured as Name Explain's patron saint of Penang. Do you have a good idea for somewhere that's name could be covered in a Name Explain video? If so, then please consider donating on Patreon. Just $1 a month helps keep the channel running and earns you a weekly chance to suggest somewhere to be turned into a video, and you too could be a Name Explain Patreon saint. Thank you to all my patrons who support Name Explain on a monthly basis. Patreon is vital to Name Explain, and donating just $2 a month allows you to enjoy ad-free videos and bonus Patreon-exclusive content. It also allows you to help choose what names get explained in upcoming videos, and it gets your name here with all these awesome people. Thank you so much for all the support you guys give Name Explain. Thank you so much for reaching the end of the video. Check out another video and subscribe to stay in the loop on all things Name Explain. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram where I'm Name Explain YT, and also join the Facebook group Friends of Name Explain, both of which will be linked down below. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and once again, thank you all so much.